Hi, this is Doug Zangar. I'd like to welcome you to the first video in the Softube Amps and Effects Explained series. In this video, we're going to take a look at our 3 amp rooms and take a look at the interface. So let's go ahead here and introduce them. Vintage amp room, metal amp room, and behind the metal amp room is our bass amp room. Go ahead and explore what we've got here. Within Logic, you can access the factory patches. Where it says default here, click, you get a drop-down menu, factory presets. You see here we have 3 amps, brown, green, and white. Let's go ahead and take a look at the vintage amp room interface. Across the top here, when you have an amp selected, which we'll talk about how to select those in just a moment, you have its amp controls. You see I now have an up and down arrow, and that's how you know which direction to move. I'm going to click, and all knobs move thusly with an up and down arrow. You can also use a scroll wheel, which is what I'm doing now. And lastly, if you need refined movement, hold down the Command key. You can see it's moving very subtly at that point. So that's the word on all the knobs. You will see in all the amp rooms a microphone. As you get close to the microphone, again, you'll see the up-down arrow, and you'll notice the mic stand changes color to indicate it's selected. And you can then know you can click and hold and drag, and you'll get a repositioning of your microphone. In this room, they're all dynamic microphones, modeled after dynamic microphones. You see we can back away. As we get closer, we can change the angle of the microphone. This is quite a bit of tone shaping involved here. Here you can also use the Command key to move in much smaller increments. Down here in the corner, you can see I've clicked Amp Bypass. I can choose to toggle between cab bypass, amp bypass. So no amplifier working, just the cabinet, or in this case, no cabinet working, just amplifier, or the full unit is working by itself. We can also navigate to different amps. Let's go ahead. You can see now I have the left-right arrow. I can click and drag, bam, everything slides over. So we went from the white amp, we are now using our brown amp. Slightly different controls, and we have a couple of switches. Simply clicking on those toggles their position. All you need to do. Microphone works in the same way. Click, hold, drag back to get your tone shaping. We can go visit the green amp, which has its own set of controls up here. This is actually a switch here, this knob. You click that to get that to move the off on. And again, microphone works in the same way. We have, as with all of them, they share the cab and amp bypass. Let's go back to the white amp here. Now, you notice I'm getting some information down here. We see microphone white, and as you can see, it's positioning down here. We'll explain how to get that either to happen or not happen in just a moment. Let's go here. Softube icon. This takes you to your information about your plugin, a bunch of legal information. Click on this button here, check for updates. Takes you to their website, and it will tell you whether or not you have up-to-date plugins, and mine are up-to-date. Let's go ahead and look at plugins control. When you first click on this, you get a window with your computer asking you if it's okay if Softube plugins control makes changes. Type in your password if needed to allow this. Now, you may have seen this interface when you first downloaded Softube products. You have a list of all their products on the left, and on the right is a list of ones that are active. So the way you make them active, of course, is to have proper codes. You can move things from the right, clicking on an arrow, over to the left, thusly, and you can also secondarily move things from the left by clicking on the minus sign back to the right. Okay, that kind of concludes this little tour of this window. Let's get out of this and go to the newsletter. Takes us back to the same website, where you can subscribe or choose to unsubscribe at any point in time. Get a bunch of good information from Softube. Get out of this window by clicking OK. Now we have setup down here. You have Cocoa GUI, and that's, unless you're running an older system, OS, you probably won't need to use this. If you're having graphic issues, you might explore that. Reverse the mouse wheel direction, especially if you're using mountain lion or lion. It may make sense to have this checked or unchecked. This will become active, by the way, once you do it, as opposed to show value display, which it says down here, some settings require a DAW restart. And in fact, that does, or actually you can just, in Logic anyway, you can just go into your core audio setup and reset that, and that will do the same thing. So let's go ahead and get out of this. We'll hit cancel. In fact, I like the settings just the way they are. And lastly, in case I haven't answered all your questions, you have a manual right here. Bam, just like that. So pretty informative manual. Can't help but like that. All right, let's go into the metal amp room. Now the metal amp room is a little different from the vintage amp room in that you just have 1 amp, but you have 2 cabinets. You also, within your 2 cabinets, have 2 microphones. So your Common amp, all your controls are up here, and you can click on these items here to get the lights to light up and make these functions active. You have the same functions with your knobs. Notice the up and down arrow to indicate my direction of movement. You have the first cabinet here. You can see you have a microphone here. It changes color to indicate that it's active. I can click and drag it, and you'll notice it moves over. That's to get our off angle, right? This is your dynamic microphone. You also have a condenser. So you get a bit of tone shaping with these microphones. You can hold down the shift key, and you can move them together. We have the same ability to navigate from one cabinet to another by the left-right arrows when they're available. We can click, hold, drag, and you can see now I've gone to this cabinet right here. Same thing with the microphones. Dynamic, condenser function all the same way. Back over here. Both cabinets share the common interface down here, but you can have unique setting for each cabinet. You can see here that it has your balance between mic 1 and mic 2, so you can mix those. You also have mono and stereo, which is only effective if you're using both mics. And you have a phase inversion. All of this stuff down here is the same as what we saw across here. And you also have kind of hidden your amp bypass and your cabinet bypass. All right, let's go into the bass amp. So we have, in fact, let's go ahead, same navigation. I'm going to navigate over to the 812s here. You have your cabinets, all the same amp. We can navigate through the cabinets. You can see once we're on a microphone, we can adjust it. These are all condenser microphones, by the way. So you have an 812 cabinet, 412 cabinet, and you have your little petite guy down here. All have quite a bit different sound. They all share a common amplifier. You have a switch here, clicking on that. You have your chicken head knobs, click, hold, drag, or use your scroll wheel. All the same type of stuff. You have some filtering down here that you didn't really have with the other amp rooms, and you can see you have a low cut, you have a high cut here, you have a bit of a tone adjustment here, you have a limiter. You can choose to think more DI versus amplifier. You can do a mix here, and you have an output. Now these, the amp room, vintage and metal amp rooms, don't have an output. They have what they call super normalization. Basically that says we're always going to give you a good, strong signal at this plugin's output. We will not allow it to clip, and we will not allow it to be too low. And it's actually pretty practical. Whereas the bass, you can adjust it to your heart's content. All right, that is the hello, how are you introduction to the amp rooms. And we're going to move over into the effects on the next video. So hope you got a little bit of information out of this one, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.